Ahead on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program provides education and information on low-stress cattle handling. We'll share some practical tips that can help you every day.
And now, a special edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. In the beef cattle business, caring for your animals is without a doubt a top priority. An outstanding resource for animal care is the Beef Quality Assurance Program, or BQA. It's a research-based and field-tested program that provides guidelines for every aspect of animal care and beef cattle production. Today on our show, we're going to focus on beef quality assurance, and in particular, low-stress cattle handling. To begin, let's hear what folks in the beef industry have to say about BQA.
Beef quality assurance is so important for our industry. It's something that consumers just think we're doing every day, and we are, but it's so important for our producers to continue to educate themselves and continue to try and do things better and better. And so the strides that we've made through the BQA program have been phenomenal, but we can't stop there. So we need to continue to educate and make ourselves better for the consumers so that they can have a great product like they always have.
BQA is a very important program, and we've been doing it in our family and on our ranch not long after the beginning of the BQA program. I go through and I have family meetings and get all of our people, even those members that are not on the ranch, we have them go through the BQA training, so when they come out and help us when we're working cattle, when we're processing cattle, and they understand what we're doing, they understand the industry, and they understand how to help me on the ranch do the job right. And the people that buy our cattle years ago started asking, are you BQA trained? And I know they had gone through the process. So this way we can tell the consumer that we're handling the cattle right, we're giving vaccines right and responsibly, we're using our antibiotics with the veterinarian and using them responsibly, and working cattle responsibly.
My family has been certified in the Beef Quality Assurance Program for years, and even the kids, because they have to do that in 4-H in Nebraska to be able to show. So they get their certification there. My husband and I get our certification every 2 years to keep current. And so, you know, I value it in a number of ways. One, as a Beef Council member and as a producer in general, I want every person to have a great eating experience every time they are served beef or every time they prepare beef for themselves. And part of that is making sure that the quality is there, that we handle the animals properly. The other thing is to assure them that we are in fact doing what we say we do. And the record keeping side of beef quality assurance is every bit as important as the on-farm practices.
We know that animal comfort, animal well-being is a strong issue for our consuming public, and BQA is addressing these, that our producers are in a position of making sure that we've got animals that have met that their comfort needs are met relative to housing if they need it, or shelter or protection, feed, good source of clean water, and those things are addressed in our daily practices.
And joining us now is none other than Curt Pate, one of the cattle handling experts who has helped hundreds of producers improve their skills. Curt, thanks so much for coming to the show.
My pleasure.
Tell folks just a little bit about your own personal background.
Well, I grew up in the cattle business. One of my grandfathers I spent a lot of time with was a cattle trader, horse trader, and rancher. And the other one ran a large feed yard in Idaho, and so I had the best world imaginable for handling lots of cattle when I was a kid and growing up doing a lot of different things.
You become a student of livestock behavior. How have you perfected your skills over time?
Well, I got real interested in working with horses. And so I went to a lot of different ideas or clinics to get ideas on horsemanship. Mm-hmm. Then I got to thinking, well, that's working pretty good with the horse. Why can't we do some things with the cow? And so I just kind of transferred a lot of the things I learned with the horse. So much of it's so similar when you're working with cattle, the pressure and the release and all those things. So I transferred from the horse to the cow, but I use them both now.
Yeah. And why do you think that low-stress cattle handling is such an important part of our beef quality assurance program?
Well, when animals go into a chute or on a truck or wherever they're headed, our stockmanship prepares them how calm they are once they get in that chute. And it's known that medicines won't work as well if the animals aren't calm, shrink, all those things. So stockmanship to me is the base of all beef quality assurance.
When we come back, we'll talk more with Curt Pate. Plus, we'll go in the field as he demonstrates the proper techniques for low-stress cattle handling, whether you're on foot, on horseback, or using an ATV. There's a lot to learn on this edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're watching NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman on RFD TV.
Overcoming adversity is part of the job, and loyalty isn't a word you just use, especially when everything is on the line. You've had good times and stood strong in leaner years. We've always been right there with you. Introducing the John Deere Livestock Loyalty Program. Special savings is our way of saying thanks for investing in John Deere.
Don't miss the 2015 NCBA Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. It's your opportunity to meet with key congressional and federal agency influencers and to let them know where cattlemen and women stand on critical issues that impact the cattle business and our way of life. Make plans to be in Washington, D.C. March 24th to the 26th for the 2015 NCBA Legislative Conference. Together, we can do more. Details at beefusa.org.
Welcome back as we continue our focus on the Beef Quality Assurance Program and low-stress cattle handling. We're visiting with stockmanship expert Curt Pate. And Curt, I know our family moves cattle either using horses or on foot. Now, some people, use ATVs. Do you have any preferences in terms of how you move cattle in managing the stress of those cattle?
Well, I'm a horseback guy, so I feel comfortable on horses and made my living making horses, so I like working cattle horseback. But the thing is, it's what you have to be comfortable with. So some people aren't comfortable on a horse. I think it's wonderful that they use an ATV, if they use them properly.
Okay.
If you use a horse, you need to use them properly.
Right.
If you're on foot, you have to do it properly, and that's the whole thing. Whatever you're most comfortable with and capable of, we have to be honest with ourselves and use that method.
Are there any things that we should keep in mind to just manage the stress regardless of what method we use?
Sure, safety is always a big concern, cattle and people. But the problem with sometimes on a horse or a ATV, we go too fast. We can make mistakes and we can hurry up and fix our mistakes. And that's when injuries happen or cattle get excited sometimes. On foot, a lot of times you won't make those mistakes because you don't want to have to run and and so you'll be thinking ahead to keep those mistakes from happening. So whatever it is, you should always try to keep things calm at a walk, maybe a trot, low gears on an ATV, and that'll make it work much smoother.
Now let's go in the field with Curt and get some practical knowledge about handling cattle when we're on foot. Let's have a look.
So the very basics of cattle handling are understanding flight zones and balance point. When we talk about flight zone, that's the distance that causes an animal to flee. But what we want to do is create a movement at the right angle with the right amount of intensity to get that animal to move off smoothly. The balance point is where you place yourself on the side of the animal to get them to move forward or slow down or stop or turn away. So when we're talking about what to use to get into those zones, a four-wheeler, a horse, or a foot, there are different ideas, different thoughts that should apply. On foot is probably the easiest and the best, but not always the most appropriate for the situation. When we talk about a four-wheeler, it has real easy capability to go forward, fast, slow, or medium, and stop and back up, but you can't take it sideways. Some horses are real good to go fast forward and you can't stop them or whatever. So however well your horse is trained, you can get that to whatever level you'd like to take it. The more experience you have as a stockman, you learn to read the animals and immediately change to what they will work best at. They will tell you by their reaction to you how to change to fit what they need. Then you can increase your angles, sharpen your angles, slow your speed down, or speed it up. Once we get cattle trusting us. It's real important not to make loud noises, fast moves or whatever to disrupt or to break that trust. Well, we got the cattle in the corral and they came in good and in a calm state of mind. Now we've transferred from horseback to afoot, and so we've got to think of those main things again: safety for the humans and the cattle. We have to keep the animals calm in a thinking, workable manner that doesn't increase their stress as they get closer to the chute or the truck or whatever.
Well, a real basic principle here, that's something a lot of people don't realize, is before you sort the cattle, is getting the cattle ready for sorting. That's a really, really important concept.
It's real important for an animal that they learn that when they go through a gate, they're not afraid to go through the gate. They go through the gate and they get freedom and the pressure comes away. This causes cattle to want to work for you. When you force cattle into places where they have to go into more pressure, then you have to fight with the cattle, so to say, to get them to do it. We're trying to change this around to where we teach the cattle how to work for us rather than against us.
In other words, when they go through the gate, it's a good thing. The pressure gets taken off.
Now, some things we need to think about are when we're working with these cattle, they're going to be worked on the left side of their body and the right side of their body. So they need to get used to seeing me from their right eye and their left eye. The other thing, when we're talking about balance point, if I have to get way down behind these cattle to get them to move, get way towards their tail, that puts me out of position to control their movement. So the first thing I'll try to teach these cattle is to walk away from me, nice and smooth. So I'll just get them to try to come out of this corner, and I'll line them up here, and I'll just keep working my way into this corner, and pretty soon I'll be far enough down it'll draw their eye to the right, and these cattle will they'll step off and they'll see that gate. Right now they're just bunched up in the corner, so I have to get down. I'm not behind them, I'm beside them because I'm wanting them to go out that gate to my right. There, now I'm in a position where I can actually send this heifer, and now I can step here and send another heifer. And I'll just try to get them where they understand where I'm at. Good. Now I can send my heifers. I can just now I'll step forward just a little ways and start controlling their flow. The farther I get forward, the more control I have of the way they go by me. And they're learning to walk by me on their right side. I'll just walk up with them. And they learn by going by me, they get to go to freedom. You'll see they feel kind of good getting by me. Every time you change corrals, put them in an alley, make sure you're thinking about these things. You're training the animals for the next step. You're not just simply taking them through a gate. You're training them for the next part of what you're going to do. And that'll really help you getting cattle ready for these things. Now I'll go ahead and I'll take them up and put them in the alley.
Today, Curt's going to demonstrate sorting in the alley. This is an area where many people get hurt. So it's really important. Learn how to handle cattle correctly. The first step is no yelling and screaming. Got to get rid of all the rough stuff. And if you bring the cattle in from pasture and they get a little bit excited, you need to let them settle down in the corrals for 20 or 30 minutes.
This is where the principles of stockmanship really apply. We're working in an alley. If the cattle can't take me, if their flight zone is real big, it gets real dangerous in the alley, and cattle start to panic themselves by jumping on top of each other and stepping on each other. Then they quit thinking and they start reacting. The other thing is, the alley can be the most stressful place on cattle there is, because they cannot get away from the pressure. There are other animals stepping on them or squeezing them, and they go into a panic mode real bad. The other thing I'd like to say is the width of the alley. This, I could work horseback. If I had a horse that I could handle properly, which my horse I've been riding, he would work just fine in this alley. It's a 14-foot alley. Cattle can feel real comfortable coming by a horse on 14 foot. Sometimes if you have cattle panicked and wild, you can't stop them in a 14-foot alley when you're on foot, and that's when it gets dangerous, or the cattle learn that they can get by you. So a lot of times if you're working on foot, a 12-foot alley is the best, but if you have a 14, your cattle have to be very calm. An 8 or a 10-foot alley, sometimes cattle don't want to come by you, and you have to get so deep in them to get them by you, then they start panicking and running by you. So these are just some things that you'll keep in mind as we are working with these cattle. This will be a nice demonstration of not having much movement. I got them up right here, so I'll have to do quite a bit here, and
and I'll go ahead and touch my bull. This is a place where I start getting my hands on these animals. I'll make sure their foot's heavy before I put my hand on them so I don't get kicked, but I don't have any movement going here, so I might use a little bit of noise to step my movement up. But that's all right. If it takes me quite a bit to get them to move up there, they won't be wild and crazy when I get them up there in the corner and they can think their way out of this deal. And this is about the only noise I will use, is the, I call that the rattlesnake noise, and these cattle are in rattlesnake country, so they ought to be used to that. And I'll let these cattle, by touching them and turning my hip away from them, it kind of helps them to move up, and this actually prepares them for the chute once they get there. And I'll have to really, I'm gonna have to really step up my pressure by going back and forth here to get these guys to move up into the pressure here. And by putting my hand on these cattle, I'm preparing them for when they get in the chute, but I don't touch them unless I know they're not gonna kick me, or I'm pretty sure of it. So I'll send them on up, and of course, I'll have to really put a lot of pressure trying to get them to go right up against all the activity up in the front, so it should be easy to get them to come back by me. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my gate, and I like to sort cattle. I like to sort cattle by myself if I'm just sorting them two ways. So right here I can use those same concepts, and I'll go ahead and let some of them spill by me as I'm coming up, and I'll send these cattle right on up. Now I'm kind of close to my gate, but I'll just keep working here. Now I got to back up. If I just stop straight, I'll let this heifer come, and I'm going to send her right on around me and send her on back. Drive her on back, step it in front of my bull. I'll step back, stop her, send her back up. Now I got a few that can flow on by me. Now I don't want to get too much movement too fast, so I just step back, hook these cattle on, stop them, step in, turn them back. The thing we have to really be aware of when we're sorting cattle in this way is the ability to step back and give them time to go. So right here, I'll walk backwards, stop her, turn her, and send her across. Send her to the back. I'll draw, step forward to send them by, step back, stop her, put my hands up, stop her. Now I should be able to step forward, send her right back to the back, let this one come by me. I got another green tag coming, I'll stop her, turn her, walk her back, by. Now right here, a couple of moves with my feet should send this girl back. It didn't. I'll send these two right on across. Get here. Now if I get too far in, I'll get down behind my cattle and I'll have to panic them to stop them. I missed one cow already, I can see. I'll let the bull come on by. I'll step back. When I finish up, I want these cattle to be calm. I'd like her to look at me and have me on their mind when I finish things up.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about low-stress cattle handling and the Beef Quality Assurance Program, just go to the website bqa.org. Stay with us. We'll have more with Curt Pate right after this.
Sure, cattle bring in the profits, but Case IH equipment helps you do everything else.
This is yours, and so is what grows there. Not theirs or theirs, yours. You need this to fight this and this to grow more this. Because the more of this you feed them, the less this you spend on that, which leaves more of this here. Don't let them take this from you. Chaparral takes care of weeds and brush, and that's that.
Sure, cattle bring in the profits, but Case IH equipment helps you do everything else.
Welcome back. We're visiting today with stockmanship expert Curt Pate. Curt, do you believe cattle perform better when you use low-stress cattle handling techniques?
I really do, and it's real hard to prove in our production, especially in range agriculture where you have weather and so many variations.
Right.
But to me, just common sense says that when animals are content, see, we are so focused on cattle handling, but I think we need to focus on production and make sure our cattle handling doesn't affect our cattle's production. That's a better way to look at it. Then you can judge what is happening in the real world.
That's a really, really good philosophy. Now let's go back in the field and see how Curt changes his technique when he's moving cattle on horseback.
As we get ready to go gather or move or check cattle, whatever we're going to do, it's important to, first of all, have a plan in your own mind of what you'd like to do and how you'd like to do it, and communicate that plan to whoever you're working with. Our industry is at a time when we need to speak up and talk about proper stockmanship. So when you neighbor or have people that you hire come to work for you, make sure and explain to them that on your outfit, bad treatment of livestock is not tolerated. And if things start falling apart, rather than speed up to try to make it better, we're going to slow down and regroup and make another plan. That'll make things go a lot smoother while you're working, and when your wife's concerned, it'll make things when you get back home a lot better. So this back and forth motion is real important to let these cows get mothered up and paired up. So instead of just going after this cow right here, I'll just go by her, let her move, hesitate just a bit, send her on her way. Now that we got our movement started, we'll just kind of go alongside of them so they don't go too fast. They're kind of wanting to move pretty fast. So if we kind of go along with them, we'll kind of slow that movement down. I'll just start this cow and the calf, nice and easy. I'll just go back and forth. I'll see her right eye, then I'll see her left eye. That'll just keep her moving off for me. When we'd like to get the cows to stay in a spot, if we remember, we can't make them stop. We've got to get them to decide to stop. So if you ride with them, now when they turn back and start into those other cows, they're going to start their movement way, they're going to push those cows right on up the hill. So we got cows wanting to go everywhere. So I'm going to get these cows headed up the trail, and I'm going to go right up along these cows. So I'm going to ride right along. So we'll stop the movement in all directions. I'm going to ride right down along this black cow, and here's what we'll do. I'm going to ride with her. This is going up to the balance point. So I'm going to change her mind by going forward on the balance point. I'm going to ride. As soon as she acknowledges me by turning her head to look at me, I know she's thinking about me. And I'll move in just a little, move in. And I'll let her and her calf stop, and I'll try to change her mind. Right here, she should look at me with two eyes. And now I'll go. Right here, good. Now if I step forward, she ought to just turn around and go back to the bunch. Just that half a step is real important to get her to change her mind about going with that cow and going back to these cattle here. So this is where it's real nice to be real precise with your horse and back up, change your mind, step forward softly. But you can see that these cows, their ears are somewhere else. They're looking somewhere else. And so it means they want to keep going. They've got movement left in them. And so right here we can see this cow, she's still got movement. These cows won't stay. And it's the way we kind of moved. We didn't have a long enough distance here to stop them.
So it's real hard to shut that movement down, but you'll just have to be a little patient and get her shut down. Now I've got their minds turned around, and we'll see what happens to the movement going back the other direction. Now these cows going against each other, these cows moving back against the cows that are coming towards them might be enough just to stop that movement and dissipate the movement that we have going in these cattle. So the thing that, being we've got a little bit of movement left in these cows, we should have probably started taking the pressure off, but then we had the mineral tubs and the bog, so it was hard to get the pressure gauge, but now we got our movement stopped, and I'll just try to stop the movement in these few cows here that are looking out. The other cows are starting to think about maybe settling down. There's not a lot of grass here, but there's a few of them starting to think about eating. And once that starts, then we're going somewhere. Once we start have cows stop and putting their head down to graze, that's a nice thing, that's a good sign. But if they're all looking with their ears pointed out, you're not going to hold them for very long. So I'll just ride back and forth here. That's what I like to look for, is those cows that have their head down grazing, those cattle that are eating the trees. Then you start knowing. But these cows that are looking out, wanting to go somewhere else, as soon as you ride off and leave them, they're going to leave you. So all I'm doing here is riding back and forth, looking at my herd, just trying to get them where they're not all pointed the same direction, not all looking the same direction. Get them stopped, turn around and grazing or wanting to lay down.
Another basic principle is if you want cattle to stay in a location, after you move them there, you've got to wait until they get their minds off of driving and keeping track of each other and get their heads down grazing. When cattle are moving, they're going to move in a straight line when they get what Bud Williams calls good movement. But when they start grazing, they're going to start going into random orientation. And when they get into random orientation, which they are right now, then they're more likely to stay where you want them to stay.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program provides guidelines and training on best practices in beef production, and you can get BQA certified. To start the process, just visit the website bqa.org. We'll have more of this special edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman right after this.
New Holland is the undisputed leader in hay tools. We give farmers a wide range of innovative equipment that increases efficiency and productivity all year round. Because to us, smart means providing a smooth, clean cut with faster dry down, plug-free conditioning, and superior bale density. And smart means leaving less hay on the field to feed more livestock in less time. That's New Holland Smart. Visit your local New Holland dealer today.
No storm is too powerful for new Purina Wind and Rain Storm Minerals, formulated with ultimate weather resistance. That means more minerals in the feeder and available to your cattle. Wind and Rain Storm Minerals provide more consistent intake and balanced mineral nutrition to optimize herd health and breedback rates. See the difference at your local Purina dealer or visit cattlenutrition.com. Wind and Rain Storm Minerals, another way Purina is building better cattle.
It's the official monthly publication of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. The National Cattleman is produced exclusively for NCBA members and includes coverage of the news and events affecting our industry. Every issue includes market analysis, feature stories, and practical management tips. Start receiving your copy of The National Cattleman. Call 866-USA-BEEF or go online to beefusa.org and join today.
Welcome back as we continue our special focus on beef quality assurance and low-stress cattle handling. Our special guest is Curt Pate, stockmanship expert from Montana. And Curt, you make this all look so easy. I guess my question would be, what do you say to folks who may be at home, have spent a lifetime working cattle using other techniques and say, I'm just not sure I can change?
Well, You got to change that attitude. We can all change, and I see people doing it all the time, but you have to get out there and do it. So get some ideas, watch some people, try to get your noise. That's one of the first things, is get the noise out of the thing. Relax and go out and work some cattle. If it doesn't work out the first time, don't give up. Try it again. The problem is we think too much sometimes, and when you start overthinking things, you're hesitant, and then your timing gets off. So just go do it. Once you're done, step back and think about what you did. Another great thing is to use video. Have your wife or have somebody else video of you, showing you what your positions are and what effects they're having on the cattle.
Right. You know, sorting cattle at our house, that may be America's funniest home videos sometimes.
That's good.
Let's once again see how Curt Pate puts his experience into practice working with and caring for cattle. This time, let's see some of his best practices when it comes to moving animals using an ATV.
So we've talked about what I know about, and that's working cattle horseback. I don't know much about working cattle a four-wheeler. So we brought in an old friend of mine, Mark King, and he's going to help us a little bit. Mark,
hi, Curt.
With any style of cattle handling, safety to me is the first and foremost thing that we need to think about for our cattle, for the other people working with us, and for ourselves.
Safety is important, and we should always start out with a helmet, an eye protection, some gloves, long pants, boots, and long sleeve shirt. And we should think about how we position that ATV to move those cattle, as you were talking about with the horses. An ATV is rider active, so meaning you've got to ride the machine, unlike a side-by-side where you drive it. And so a lot of times we'll get animals moving in a direction and we'll have some peel off or not going where we want them to. We've got the horsepower and the speed built into the ATV to just try to zoom ahead of them. And that's when a lot of our accidents occur, because we don't see the obstacles that a horse that has eyes and a brain will see.
I've seen places where low wires or things that come across the chest or the neck are very dangerous. And if you're going fast, you can't stop one of these things.
You send somebody out to move cattle that hasn't maybe been there on that property, and those low wires and just single wires can cause a lot of issues.
So what is the best way, in your opinion, to use a side-by-side or a four-wheeler?
When most ranchers think of using the side-by-side or the ATV, they think of moving cattle in pastures. Obviously, one of the things we wouldn't try to do is doctor cattle off of an ATV.
Like with a rope or something.
Like with a rope or something. I think if we're going to have sick cattle that we need to doctor, we can use the ATV to bring them to a working facility.
So you're saying that you can use the ATV to call cattle to you by using a feed or a whistle or something, or you can use them to drive.
Yeah, you know, I've witnessed both ranchers that can drive cattle very well, but I've watched a lot of guys move cattle with just a bag of cake or a hay bale on the back of that four-wheeler, and those cattle will follow them pretty much wherever they want to go.
So it all comes down to stockmanship. When we go to moving the cattle, whether we're horseback, afoot, or on an ATV, it comes down to proper stockmanship techniques in a calm, effective manner.
I would fully agree with that.
Well, let's go show how we can do that.
Let's do that.
All right.
People question the use of four-wheelers. Are they good? Are they bad? It's all a matter of how they are introduced to the cattle. If the cattle's first experience with four-wheelers is being chased all around the pasture at a dead run, they're going to be afraid of four-wheelers. And that could be a difficult thing to fix. You want to make sure that when you introduce the four-wheeler, drive it out to the pasture, sit there on it, you got some feed on it, let them kind of come up and explore it, see that it's not dangerous, then move it around some. It can be used in a good way. It's really important on this country to go really slow with a four-wheeler. This is rough country, and if you go fast, you could be tipping the four-wheeler over with really disastrous results. He's just going along nice and slow. You can start to see the cows up there responding. He's just kind of working in the back, just barely on the edge of the flight zone. In the four-wheeler, it's more difficult to do the classic Bud Williams type back and forth movement, but he's just working really carefully on the edge of the flight zone and moving the cattle forward. See, a basic principle is when the cattle do what you want, you back off the flight zone. Don't keep pushing down on the flight zone. That will get them running. Basic principle of animal handling is when animals do what you want, you give relief. We reward them by backing off of the flight zone. See, he's just moving along, doing the zigzag in the back slowly. Cow's responding in a really nice, quiet, controlled manner. And he's just moving back and forth, just barely on the edge of the flight zone to get the animals to start moving. He's on a real steep grade there, so it's really important that he go really slow and carefully, because the ranchers, unfortunately, have more fatalities on four-wheelers than any other people that buy four-wheelers. So it's really important to have safety in mind. See, there the cattle are responding to the position of the four-wheeler. A four-wheeler is less maneuverable than a horse, so you're going to have to work it. You're using the same principles, but you're going to have to drive it differently. It just doesn't move as easily as a horse does. You see the calf responded to his position, then he backed off. And a basic principle when you want cattle to stay somewhere is to back off and wait until they start eating, drinking, or grazing.
Still ahead on NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, we'll visit with the cowboy poet Baxter Black. And when we come back, we'll have final thoughts from stockmanship expert Curt Pate. Stay with us.
Every truck can tow a boat. Every truck can climb a hill. Every truck can haul a trailer. But not everyone can say they're the fastest growing truck brand in America. Guts, glory, Ram.
Your herd, your business, your family. You've always protected what matters most, so you know how important vaccinations are for healthy cattle. And with Vista vaccines from Merck Animal Health, you know you're covered. No other vaccine works like Vista. Only Vista gives you complete dual-action pneumonia protection and complete one-dose fetal protection for the entire pregnancy. Protect what matters most. Talk to your veterinarian or animal health supplier about Vista.
Don't miss the 2015 NCBA Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. It's your opportunity to meet with key congressional and federal agency influencers and to let them know where cattlemen and women stand on critical issues that impact the cattle business and our way of life. Make plans to be in Washington, D.C. March 24th to the 26th for the 2015 NCBA Legislative Conference. Together, we can do more. Details at beefusa.org.
At the recent Cattle Industry Convention, we asked producers for their thoughts on the BQA program. Here's what they had to say.
We need to do things right and not only do it right, but tell the consumer that we're doing right, and the BQA is good instruction and hands-on how to do things for the betterment of our end product, which is the beef.
We're committed to beef quality assurance. My partner is a past chairman of the Producer Education Committee. We're totally engaged with BQA. We are certified as producers, and everyone that works on our operation is either currently certified or seeking certification. And we expect that to continue in the future. It's a great program.
We have a real affinity for it. We use it at the feedlot, we use it with our own cow-calf operation, and everybody that is connected with our operation has BQA certification.
Well, beef quality assurance is a way of, again, messaging what we're doing, and it's a way that we can use to talk to consumers about it. It's also a way of those of us in production can keep up on what's going on and the changes we need to make in operations and so forth, and just to make sure that we're doing the best we can do.
I think the BQA program is really important from both a producer and a consumer standpoint. For producers, it's ensuring that they're getting the most out of their animal and they're treating it properly. And then for the consumer, they know that farmers go through these programs, that they go through the BQA training and they get certified and they're treating their animals properly. And I think it's just really important from both aspects to see that.
I think it helps to illustrate the care and commitment that we have for the health and well-being of our animals, and that that we are consumers of beef as well, and we want a wholesome product developed for the consumer.
Well, I think BQA does a great job. It's a great program that it helps educate producers about some of the methods that we can use on our operations to better take care of our animals, to use good husbandry practices, and certainly that's good for not only us, but that's good for consumers too.
We're back once again with stockmanship expert Curt Pate as we wrap up our special focus on low-stress cattle handling and the BQA program. Curt, what do producers tell you about the difference it makes when they learn and implement these low-stress cattle handling techniques?
Well, they first thing they say is their cattle get, they act different. They want to be handled rather than scared of it. And I guess the main thing when it comes right down to it, people, when they really get into it, it's quality of life. Not so much profit they tell me about, but quality of life. Working with your wife gets better. Working with your family gets better, your crew. So that's real important.
I know you're such a strong advocate of the BQA program. Why are you such a big believer in BQA?
Well, I think beef quality assurance, all it really means to me is becoming a professional in all aspects of beef production. So that's it. Be a professional.
We see more people getting BQA certified. Do you think it's making a real difference for our industry?
I really do. It's so easy to learn with the programs they have for BQA in our feed yards, our ranches, or whatever. And there's still some learning to do, but for the most part, people are really catching on and doing the right thing.
I know the short program can't do your approach justice. People really need to come and see one of your demonstrations. But what final thoughts would you share with our viewers, Curt?
Well, just enjoy working cattle. So many times people, they start dreading working cattle. Once you get to getting it where you have success and you're not worried about things not working out, cattle working becomes fun and enjoyable and profitable, and that's what the beef industry is all about.
Thanks so much for sharing your insight. You're such a master. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
To find out more about low-stress livestock handling and the Beef Quality Assurance Program, visit bqa.org. You can always review any of our stories by visiting our website, cattlemantocattleman.org. Stay with us. Baxter Black is up next.
Hi there, I'm Joey.
And I'm Rory, and welcome to our farm outside Nashville, Tennessee. When we go to work, whether it's on tour or here at home, we wear the West.
That's right. Whether it's that perfect snap shirt or that perfect pair of boots, when you wear Roper, you wear the West.
Learn more about us, Joey and Rory, and about Roper Western Wear at eroper.com.
Telling the truth and being real and feeding my family a home-cooked meal. That's important to me. That's important to me. And planting the garden and watching it grow.
Hello, I'm Kevin Oxner, host of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. Each week, we travel the country to bring you the latest cattle industry news and information. Check us out at cattlemantocattleman.org or on Facebook and Twitter.
Working your cattle just got easier. Introducing the new Vet Gun delivery system, a new way to apply topical insecticides to your cattle. The Vet Gun lets you remotely treat cattle with effective parasite control, so you can do it from an ATV, on horseback, or just walking among the herd. It's that simple. The proven topical insecticide AML Vet Cap is used with the Vet Gun. It works fast to control horn flies and lice while minimizing stress on your cattle. Fast, easy, effective. Vet Gun. Check with your animal health supplier for availability.
We know who made that hitch. We know who cut the steel, who milled the ball, and who welded the seams. We know who tested, measured, and checked. We even know who thought the whole thing up. We're B&W, and we know your hitch. Because we don't make them halfway around the world. We make them all right here. B&W. Trusted.
A mule is as good as a horse till you need a horse, of course, or the reverse. I saw a photo in the newspaper of a man standing in the surf trying to throw a rope around the tail of a beached baby humpback whale. My first thought was, a marine mammal biologist is as good as a cowboy till you need a cowboy. How many times have you thought that yourself, if I only had a cowboy? Like 2 years ago when your cat got stuck up in the tree. Sure, you called a fireman and they showed up, and they broke out their ladders and tried to climb the tree. Well, a cowboy simply would have roped the limb, dallied, bent her back double, and then released the limb, and catapulted the cat into the neighbor's stock tank, where the Navy SEALs could have rescued him. Or, say you were being picketed by the Humane Society of the United States, or PETA and the lunatic fringe for texting non-organic messages to caged hens. Encourage them to lay one for the team. You realize that reasonable dialogue with moon-eyed zealots is futile, so you call a cowboy. He rides through the protesters, scattering a wagon load of hefty bags filled with chicken noodle soup. Yes, which drenches the crowd. Then he calls the dogs who rush in and lick the whining protesters who slosh down the road with the dogs nipping at their heels. Yes. Remember those times when the pigs got loose in the house and uprooted all your potted plants? Or when your pet camel fell through the swimming pool cover while grazing on the algae? Yes. Oh, what you would have given for a cowboy. Maybe we should start a non-profit foundation funded by the United Cowboy Way, wherein each county could maintain a couple of cowboys on call. They would function like a cross between a dog catcher and a psychologist to handle the myriad of emergencies that cry for a man with a horse and a rope. Yes. Think about that the next time you accidentally drop your heirloom Roy Rogers lunch bucket into the missile silo, or a rhino gets loose in the high school gym. Remember, a 35-piece marching band is as good as a cowboy. So you need someone to rope a renegade tuba or catapult a cat. This is Baxter Black and Chaco from out there.
Thanks, Baxter. We'll be back with more right after this.
I'm an NCBA member because NCBA, they look at the facts, they look at the history, and they look what's good for the industry.
It's important to be NCBA members just because of what NCBA does. They keep us informed about a lot of things that are going on nationwide.
The reason we're an NCBA member is we think that it's the best voice that the cattle people have.
Join NCBA today. Head to beefusa.org or call 866-USA-BEEF. If you like green, Classic Tractor Fever has got you covered. Choose from 3 outstanding DVDs that help preserve the history and proud tradition of the great John Deere tractor lineup. Great Green Machines is more than 70 minutes of classic John Deere tractors. Or choose Johnny Popper People, which includes a visit to the John Deere Pavilion and a look at all the fun those who love 2-cylinder Johnny Poppers have. And don't miss a visit to Wisconsin to see the amazing colossal Keller collection. The Kellers have more than 500 tractors in their collection, including many #1 first off-the-line John Deere machines. Catch all 3 on DVD by calling 1-800-888-8979 or visit the website classictractors.com. And thanks for catching Classic John Deere Fever.
Want to help elect officials who understand the needs of the cattle industry? Then visit beefusa.org and check out the NCBA Political Action Committee online auction page. There, NCBA members can view and bid on a wide variety of exciting travel and merchandise, and the funds go to support NCBA's work in Washington, D.C. You must be a member to contribute to NCBA PAC, so don't wait. Join today.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about what's happening with NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, you can find us on Facebook. Be sure to like our page, and we'll keep you updated with photos, details on upcoming shows, and much more. And it's a great way to connect with other cattlemen and women across the country. So check us out on Facebook. It's time now for this week's Legacy Photos. Let's take a look. You can send us your pictures of your farm or ranch by visiting our website, cattleman2cattleman.org. Well, that's our time for this special edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. Our thanks to Curt Pate for sharing his expertise with us, and thanks to you for watching. We'll see you next week right here on RFD TV.